Okay, hit it. Hi, I'm Rick Harsch. I'm back. I'm back with my master's class in fiction and whatever else I decide to do on this YouTube channel. I had a 2-week vacation. I'm not going to tell you where I went because then you'll probably want to go there. Or nobody will go there, and next time I go, I'll be really lonely. It wasn't Sheboygan Falls. I didn't have the money to cross the ocean. Anyway, what we're talking about today is the publishing industry, and I am part of it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the trickle-down theory in publishing, because we all know it's bullshit in economics. Reagan's trickle-down theory. I mean, first of all, anything that sounds like you're getting pissed on in the first place is really not something that you want to be supporting. I mean, I do support women who work in the let's call it the custodial industry and are paid to piss on people. I've had some hard times in my life, economically. In fact, almost every year is a very hard time economically. And I've taken some jobs that, that are pretty difficult and low paying. I was a cab driver for several years. And, being a cab driver is really no better than being a custodial worker. And, in fact, one thing that happens in taxi cabs when you work in a river city where there are a lot of bars is, people vomit shit and piss in your cab. They also masturbate in your cab. This is all, something we can talk about another time. I don't think you tuned in today to hear about this. But in case you did, the reason I'm talking about it is because the trickle-down theory in economics doesn't really work, except in a weird way in the publishing industry. I've got two writer friends who have benefited from the specific mechanism of the trickle down in publishing. The problem with we all know that publishers are conservative when it comes to literary books. They don't want to take the leap. It's very hard to get them to take a leap, and it's even worse because now agents are required, and agents, the basic thing about the literary industry is that it's a conservatizing mechanism. You get some really great editors, some great literary minds, and but then, life gets harder and harder for them as people get more and more psychotic because of money. So I remember that this happened maybe before the 90s, but when I was when I first had an agent and was getting published within the U.S. publishing industry, it wasn't a giant press, but it was trying to it was Steerforth Press. It was an excellent press, but and it's still alive. And so they've made some good decisions, and made some really great decisions that turned out to be bad financial decisions, like chosen some really great books that for whatever reason failed. Sometimes failure means one bad review from the New York Times. That's how strange and awful the business can be. But what I wanted to say was that when I worked for Steerforth, I heard about what other editors went through. Steerforth was small enough that the editors were free, and they were free to make their own decisions. I suppose they had to talk to each other, but they were comrades in arms and so on. But I was hearing that in order to publish a book, like if somebody wanted to take a chance on me, they'd have to fill out all these financial forms, prospectuses, and so on. How many books will it sell? What is your plan? So the editor was not just an editor anymore. He was a financial prognosticator and a marketer, and or a marketing planner, and it's just a complete warpage of the system. So what that does, besides freeze up and make fearful the editors, which is strange because I don't think editors should ever be afraid of anything. They should, least of all getting fired. I mean, the first thing an editor should have in the vocabulary for dealing with a publisher is fuck off. Who's the editor? I am. Fuck off. Spend a little more money. Oh, it didn't work? So what? I was still right. Okay, we find that to be true. Like the editor who published William Gaddis in 1955. I don't know anything about what happened to that editor, but he was right, or she, and definitely was right about Gaddis. But it took about 20 years or 17 years before that was known. But what happens is when a book surprises the industry, an example of this was Cold Mountain. It was considered a literary book that became a bestseller. So what they do in the industry, because nobody looks at a book as like Cold Mountain and says literary bestseller, but somebody looked at Cold Mountain and said, okay, it's pretty good. Let's try it, and then it became a bestseller. So then what happens is, this is where the trickle down comes in. Everybody's looking for the next Cold Mountain. And the problem is there is no next Cold Mountain. But what the benefit for writers is, if somebody gets viewed as a potential literary bestseller, and one of my friends was, and got a 2-book contract for $150,000, which, at that time, I had, I think my first 2 contracts were signed by then, and they were $3,000 and $5,000. So I had $8,000 for my first 2. I'd already been identified as maybe, and but this guy had not been pigeonholed yet, and so he got $150,000 for 2 books, and those same 2 books could have had any kind of fate whatsoever, and I was happy for him, and the reason is because the reason that I was happy, even though it wasn't me, is because, as I had to tell my wife at the time, well, yeah, sure, maybe I deserve somewhere in the neighborhood of whatever he gets, but somebody's going to get that big chunk of money. Might as well be a friend. So another friend cashed in on the Harry Potter phenomenon, and he did even better. And the remarkable thing about it is, the interesting thing about it, one interesting thing about it, among others, is that the first writer's books were better than Cold Mountain, and the other writer I'm talking about, Trenton Lee Stewart, his Mysterious Benedict Society books are better than the Harry Potter books by far. And but he never would have been, well, I wouldn't say never, but it's a lot less likely he would have gotten any money. They might have done a test run, and if he got lucky, he got to sell some more books. If not, they just write him off. His career is over. But because of Harry Potter, this is only a little percent theory. Okay, so I'm talking about bestsellers. I can't have a bestseller because I don't print enough. If any of my books are selling, like I have my own bestseller, The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas is my bestseller, and it keeps selling. It's enduring, but you know, that only means that I've sold about 134 or 5 by now. But I've identified 3 books of mine that could be and would be and should be bestsellers if they were in the hands of any publishing company, any editor who said, these are bestsellers, you know. And then what they do is they spend the money that they would on bestsellers. The books become known, and 2 out of 3 sell and like bestsellers, and they get their money back. And the 3, since I have a sale of 3 pocketbooks for the price of 2, that's 20 euros for 3 pocketbooks, 10 apiece, chopped. Okay, well, I've chosen my bestsellers. I mean, based on what I really think. One is Jeff Bursey's Unidentified Man at Left of Photo. This is a postmodern romp that has enough. How would I market it? I'd say, well, you know, if you like Vonnegut, you know, or if you want to go to a more knowledgeable set, you'd say, if you like Italo Calvino, you know, it's not really quite like Vonnegut or quite like Italo Calvino, but there are enough things in common, and it's enough fun, and it's smart enough, and funny enough, and you know, it's a treat. It would be a bestseller. It could be a bestseller. So I'm going to sell it for 6. These 3 books that I'm going to show you are going to come in a group, the potential bestsellers, and they're going to be 3 for 18 euros instead of 20 euros. Another one, this is mine, and you know, so if a man pushes his own book, he's probably telling the truth. This is a memoir about alcoholism, bad marital behavior, and fatherhood, and India. And this is definite bestseller material. It's a bit of a heartbreaker at times. It's a beautiful book, and it tells you more about India than any guidebook would. You get deep inside all of these things. There are things that I wish I had never done in my life. It's a memoir, so you know, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I already wrote it down. But it's definitely a bestseller type. Another one is the Vardaman flip book. First of all, it's a flip book. So it's got two novels. Second of all, you've got an astonishing story of a murderess in Iowa in the 1960s that crosses several lines. She's not real, but she's astonishingly brought to life. And Richard Speck plays a part in this, and I would call her a proto-feminist in a way. It's a fascinating book. And on the other side, you have a book he wrote 10 years later that is one of the best absurdist novels I've ever read. April is the Cruelest Month. This one's called Suddenly This Summer. Bestseller material. All 3 of them. In the right hands, like a hand with money, and that can advertise and get reviews and so on. All 3 of these would be bestsellers. And so I'm offering them to you as such at 18 euros. Good to be back.